Be yourself positive. Just another mindset.
Hello, friends, and welcome to a new episode of the Just Another Mindset podcast, the show that inspires you to change and live a more exciting life. My name is Ismael, and each week I bring to you a relevant conversation, message, or topic that will not only entertain you, but help you to change towards a more meaningful and satisfying life, individually and collectively. Let us get inspired and embrace collective changes for the better. In today's episode, I'm excited to talk to Adele Leah. Adele is a career transition strategist and a career development coach with 20 years plus experience in recruitment and the coaching industry. She is also a slayer of limiting beliefs, a champion of I love my job syndrome, and a believer in you deserving a better career. She's originally from Manchester and she has worked and lived multiple years in Australia before coming back to Europe, currently being based somewhere between the UK and Italy. We talk about how COVID gave people an ability to stop, and it changed the working environment of so many of us. We talk about the power and how to find your niche and having a client attraction strategy in place before making big changes. We further talk about that opportunity will present itself to you if you search for it, and that happiness and success are super unique. You will hear what Adele wishes to see change in the education system. We will talk about how you have to work the trust muscle and walk your own talk. And finally, the answer to the question, is there something more, is always yes, there is. Wonderful, wonderful. Love it. So first of all, Adele, a warm welcome to the Just Another Mindset podcast. And I'm super happy to welcome you here. And my first question to you would be, how do you feel today and what's on your mind?
How do I feel today? I feel pretty good, actually. I'm feeling quite excited about the future, which is something I aim to do most days because we get an opportunity to create our future every day. Sometimes we get stuck in the mindset of what's not going right and, the ifs, the buts, the shoulds, the woulds, the coulds, and we forget about the possibility and, where possible. And I'm guilty of that. There's days, there's weeks, excuse me, sometimes there's months, it's in that negative cycle, but where possible, I like to get up in the morning. I like to exercise first thing because that's my mindset kind of set for the day, and really think about what's the possibility, what's the opportunity. I actually said to myself today on my morning walk, our lives are limited by what we let ourselves believe is possible. So when we let ourselves believe more is possible, more is possible. So that's how I'm feeling today.
That sounds super wonderful. And I think, you opened a lot of doors already, but I think the limiting factor is our belief. So if we believe and if we dream big, we have great opportunities. The first sub-question that came to mind, if you say you're excited about the future, what time horizon do you give the future? Is it the next year? Is it the next 3 years? Is it the next 10 years? What were you thinking?
Good question. I'm a big visionary kind of person. I've tried the journaling, but I'm more of that big vision. So, the vision goes really far. And actually, this kind of works into the coaching work I do. We do set sort of, the 5-year plan, the 10-year vision. And actually, you need the 10-year vision before really you set the 5-year plan, because that's your marker in the sand. But when I look at my future, not dreaming, I've gone out in my mind to 65. I want to retrain and be a yoga teacher at like 60. And when I lived in Melbourne, I used to go to disco yoga on a Friday night, where it was the old school rave tunes, which I used to party to, but in a yoga studio. And I actually want to still be a 60, 65, 70-year-old that enjoys the music and enjoys the partying, but obviously won't be going to a club. So I thought, how amazing would it be for, you know, the old clubbers to be doing disco yoga at 65 and 70. So, you know, there's just ideas. I see things, I hear things, I, you know, see people that I'm inspired by, and I just kind of plant the seed and think it's going to grow if it's meant to grow, and keep moving in that direction. You know, and every day I think it's about having that, you know, inspired vision for your future, not just, and it's not about I want to get there, because the goalposts need to move. We actually never should become the best version of ourselves, but we should always strive to be the best version and a better version of ourselves. But it's not an end point we reach, it's the journey.
The journey more, right? And it's lifelong learning, and
yeah,
probably you will reiterate on your vision and then continue walking.
Yeah. So there's some, you know, there's some milestones, but I'm not really, you know, I don't use the SMART goal setting kind of tactic, because we sometimes can set ourselves up for disappointment because things take longer than we think, longer than we expect. You know, our happiness is based around our expectations. So if we expect too much too soon and we don't reach it, we're then not happy. We then think we've failed and stop trying. So rather than that, it's kind of what are we moving towards? And if we haven't got, you know, and again, when the coaching work I do, if we haven't got a vision that we're moving towards, we actually spend our lives moving away from what we don't want and never moving towards what we do want. So it's more about what's the dream, what's the ideas, what are the possibilities, what excites you, what inspires you, what do you want to move forward towards, and go on that journey. Not, I have to have that promotion, leave my corporate job by this date to be happy. Life's not like that. It's not a kind of, you know, linear line, is it?
No, it's really not. It's really not. So for my understanding, is that also one of the first things that you do with your clients as a career coach, to evaluate what is their values and what is the life vision? And if so, how do you do that?
Yeah. So the first step is clarity. Really getting clarity on yourself and who you are, your skills, your strengths, what you love, what, you know, lights you up, where's your flow state, and then where do you want to do it, who with. And the big thing, you know, it's famous from Simon Sinek, is, you know, it's the why, it's what's the purpose. Because really career happiness, satisfaction and fulfillment is when we use our skills and our strengths, what we're really good at, where we want to grow, doing something we're passionate about with the people we want to do it with. But ultimately, there's a bigger purpose, there's an impact for kind of the greater good. And it's not money. Money is a byproduct of doing what you're great at. And unfortunately, we kind of, you know, media, education, society kind of puts the dollar figure on success and happiness. And, you know, success without fulfillment is actually failure.
It certainly is. It certainly is.
I think a quote by Tony Robbins, not one of my own, but you know, something that really resonates with me. So it's this clarity piece, and it's, you know, it's deep delving, digging, pulling out lots of information. I've designed and developed various kind of workbooks, toolkits, exercises to help that process, because we have to ask ourselves different questions than we've been asking ourselves. Otherwise, we wouldn't be looking for happiness. We would have found it. And it's, you know, there's kind of this magical thing that happens for people because they suddenly see things differently, because we're shining a light on, you know, a different, you know, shining a light in a different way and not where we've always been shining it. And it opens up this box of possibility and opportunity that potentially they've not seen. You know, another saying that I love is, we only know what we know. We know what we don't know, but there's a whole world out there that we don't know that we don't know. And we delve into that world that we didn't know that we didn't know. And often that's where this pot of gold is hiding. And, that's kind of the process. And I think when people really click into this kind of clarity piece, it changes the level of confidence and belief in themselves and really empowers them to go after what they want, because they really know what they want. So yeah, that's where it all starts. One of my favorite pieces of work that I do with my clients is the deep dive into clarity.
Wonderful. And just to give a little background or a little bit of a context, who is your typical client, if he or she even exists? Is it people that have quite a bit of work experience and realize themselves that money is not the only motivating factor? Is it people starting their career? Is it a whole bunch of different facets? Would you enlighten us a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I initially started, it was a whole range of people, because I probably hadn't landed on my clarity piece exactly. So, we're kind of evolving beings. So it started, a lot broader, but has gradually kind of, become much more narrow and niche. And it really is people that are just saying, you know what, there's more to life than 9 to 5, working for a business, the big job title, the big paycheck. And actually, some of them are looking for, money because it gives them that freedom, but it's not just the money. It's not just about getting that next job. It's actually about finding that happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction, which when you get all that, that is success. And then more recently, I would say, probably in the past 2 years, it's actually people looking to leave the corporate world, because when they delve into, and some of them don't come to me knowing this, they kind of think they want the next job. But when they delve into this clarity piece, and, this covers what are the values, what's the life that you want to live, and really creating this picture for the future, freedom and flexibility, which are two of my big key values, really tend to come up. And they realize that, yes, they might get that other job that will give them more money, which they think initially will give them more freedom, but they're going to be working harder, longer, more stressful to earn the money, and it's not going to give them the freedom. So then it's this balance, where is money, freedom on the kind of, on the tipping scale. And a number of people that have left the court that I've worked with, and we've, had a get out game plan, is what I call it, their exit strategy. They've actually gone on to create a business within less than 12 months. They're working less and earning more money, but are doing what they want. And, that's a possibility, because they've allowed themselves to believe that. So, really that's kind of my, base of my clientele at the moment, is those people that are looking to leave. Some of them might be, okay, I need to, when we look at this get out game plan, it's a 5-year, it's not an immediate thing. So then it's like, okay, if that's where you want to be in 5 years and 10 years, what do you need to do now? What's the experience you need to have to then move towards that? And, then I know I'll be working with these people over a long period of time, which is amazing, and which is what I've done with some others, like through 2 job moves and then exiting, and that's what I really love. I think I live vicariously through them.
No, wonderful. I mean, so it sounds like you help people make the right career moves, and those career moves are not necessarily from today for until tomorrow, but it's really to get a clarification, to get clarity on where do I want to be in 5 years, what kind of life do I want to live in 10 years, and then going backwards and cutting down, okay, this is what I need to do in the next 6 months, in the next 12 months, in the next 24 months, and so forth. And you are the guiding hand.
Yeah, because just let me jump in there, because what I think is a really missing piece in the education process, and even at university, it's like you leave university, get a job, then just try and get another job that's better, and better as in paying more. And nobody teaches us how to career plan. And so I would say, probably over 90% of the population, we're not making strategic career moves, because we're not heading in any direction. And, it was something I was doing it was a mistake of mine. And when I saw it, I was like, hang on a minute, who's teaching this stuff? Nobody's teaching us this. Like, this is really important. We're spending, gosh, 30, 40 years, yet we plan our education more than we then plan our career. And we're choosing our kind of career before we're actually even allowed to buy a beer. So I think it's madness.
It certainly is, and I fully agree that nobody, or like very few people, actually have good mentors and good people on their side at a very young age to help them planning a career. If we dig down a little bit deeper on that, what is a few things that you would like to see being taught to people in universities or in high schools or at an early age in regard to career planning?
Good question. Another good question. So I think, I don't know the education system now because it's been just a little while since I left. Although I do know a bit because I have been working with a few private colleges and training organizations they're actually offering career coaching as part of their programs. So I think in the future, we're going to see more of that, which is really interesting. But we kind of put in boxes. And we're putting boxes on our academic ability and not necessarily on our innate strengths. So I did a lot of study around personality and behavioral profiling, and and I've also done a lot of work with organizations on profiling their business, their culture, the needs of a role, because you can actually teach skills. If the skills align with the person's strengths and passion, you can teach it. But we kind of, oh, you're very good, mathematically, so here are your career options. But they're not actually looking at who is the person. So a lot of people can end up in the wrong jobs because it's not aligning that kind of skills and strengths. And it's not aligning about a vision. What do you want? Then again, if we go back to, and a lot of work I do with people is, what is their vision of success? Because we're led to believe it's, if you're, high academic, maybe you've gone into law, there's the top law firms. But actually working for one of the top law firms might not be the right fit for you as a person, or go and work for one of the big management consultancies, because that's success. And so then we're thriving. And a lot of people that I work with have, they've been in the big investment banks, they've been in the big law firms, solicitors firms, the big management consultancies, and there was a total misalignment and they were unhappy. And it actually wasn't what they were doing, it was where they were doing it and who they were doing it for. So I think in the education system, if we could see more work around us understanding ourselves as people, understanding our mindset, I mean, it would be, how amazing would the world be if we were all doing GCSEs in mindset and emotional intelligence and resilience?
Absolutely. And I mean, I can only speak for myself, but also to get a much better understanding of what is actually your core values, your vision, and what is your strengths. I mean, I can only talk for my very personal case in management consulting, but you write down a few strengths in your CVs or in your cover letters, and that's where about it stops. So once you get a job, you don't really talk about your strengths anymore. Obviously, you get this and that job, but basically you do all of them. And it's not really individual. You choose kind of a track, but after all, you do the job that's there to do. And it's not really individual, even though big companies tend to tell you that. For my very personal experience, it does not. And that then triggers what you're explaining or describing. There's a lot of unhappiness and there's a lot of unrest. And I think I would like to use that as a segue. You earlier said that especially over the past 2 years, you see a change of workforce and of demands for employers. And I think there's also the term of it being the Great Resignation. So I don't know if there is anything that you sense in particular, or that you see shifts in your client base or in their demands. And if you want to talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So there was a study done by Gallup International. I'm not sure what year, but it was probably about 2 years ago, that 87% of employees are disengaged.
That's pretty sad.
Okay, so I think we're going to see that's different, because I think COVID gave people time and opportunity to stop. It also, sometimes we're doing the wrong role, but we like the people we're working with, and we like the kind of camaraderie of going into the office. That stopped. Or it's a toxic work culture and you're bringing it into your home because people were working from home. So I think, there's a couple of things that we can be really thankful for COVID for, is actually, allowing us the time to stop and think and kind of have a reset. And also what it did, it was so interesting, companies pre-COVID, oh, no, you can't work remotely, no opportunity to work from home, no, you can't have, flexibility and do 1 day at home and 4 days in the office. Suddenly, these businesses had to adapt. Why so many of them now are thinking we've got to go back. They also, if people weren't in the office having to work because they're in the office, they really started saying, actually, I want to do this. Yeah. Prior to COVID, and I can't remember the figures of the study, that there was a study done, and I think at the time, pre-COVID, 20% of the workforce were remote. And there was a study done that was going to change. And I think COVID has sped that up, that there is going to be more contractors, consultants, freelancers, remote workers, as businesses look to streamline, cut costs, move to more agile working environments. And now, this 2022 is being kind of deemed the year of freelance. They're saying the future is freelance. As 42% of CEOs are looking at a more remote contract consulting, freelance-based working model to come in. And I think we're going to see, my prediction for the work future is we're not going to see that we're being paid per hour, because we're still on this working model that was set in the industrial age, where you were clocking in and clocking out. And you were paid per hour, and you had to deliver X in that hour. Otherwise, you weren't performing, off you go. But I think now we're going to move to more of a delivery model of that's the project that you're delivering. That's what you're getting paid for the project. If you're amazing, you might do that in 2 days. You might work, not with all jobs, obviously not all jobs this is possible, but with some jobs it is. There's a lot of roles. You don't need to be there between the hours of 9 to 5. If you were a copywriter and you've got to write that copy, if you wanted to do 48 hours straight,
Go ahead.
Do it. Go ahead. Do it.
Yeah, it's a lot more outcome-based business models, I believe. Now, business for big businesses, this is something I believe that started many years ago, and that's absolutely the norm. That if you have, and it doesn't matter if it's a managed service provider or consultants whatsoever, you basically pay them per outcome. You don't pay them anymore per day or per hour, as you say. There is no sense. And if somebody can do the job in 2 hours, super good. And if somebody needs 8 hours, it doesn't really matter how much time they need, as long as they do it within the deadlines. But they should just make sure to create the outcome that is desired, right? Okay, that's very interesting. And I hear that you are saying that COVID was rather an accelerator, so that there were trends for remote working, that there were trends for maybe more flexibility before COVID, but that COVID basically accelerated that in a way.
Yes, I think probably more in that kind of startup world pre-COVID, they were realizing to get the talent that they wanted and needed, that actually looking at more remote kind of working models and this more flexibility was going to give them a better breadth of talent than just looking locally. So that was kind of happening. And the people that were smart and knew they were really good at their jobs were managing to say, well, look, I'm sitting in Italy, you're sitting in Sri Lanka, but this is the project that needs delivering. We've got digital technology, we've got, smartphones. Does it matter? Why do we have to be in the same room? So I think the startup world, that was happening. And then I think, COVID's made other organizations embrace it. I still, cannot fathom why some businesses are now saying you have to come back in the office. I worked with a guy, he works for a really big sports retailer over in the US in the kind of marketing design, digital production team. And pre-COVID, he was only allowed to recruit talent from the local area, and looking for very niche talent, and even freelancers, they had to be locally that could come in and work in the office. And they're trying to do some really cool things, with their design, marketing, advertising, excuse me, and video production. And he was really struggling to get talent. COVID hit, he recruited 6 people all over the US and managed to get the best talent, because the company was like, well, we're now all having to work remotely, so you don't have to look locally. But it took COVID for that to make a company think, well, hang on, we're really struggling. They were having to go to agencies, spend a whole heap of money with advertising agencies that had a global network, so they had access to that talent globally. And they didn't think till COVID.
I don't know if they didn't think of it, but I mean, for, again, my personal experience, the board members that I talked to and that I worked with, I think most of them, some of them come from a very traditional way of doing business. And 30 years ago, this was the way that you were taught how it's gonna be a successful job. And I believe also like 20 years ago, it already started questioning if this is really the only way forward, but still people hold on to that.
The famous line, this is how it's always been done.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
But is it how it always has to be done?
I would highly doubt that, certainly. So this is one big factor. I think we touched around on the remote working, but talking to you, it's super interesting firsthand. What is other demands that talent and the workforce has in a changing job market?
The demands, I mean, at the moment, there's a huge demand for talent across all industry sectors. And all locations. We've seen in the US how many people, I think you gave me the figure before, 4 million
per month, in 2021 on average. That's like 50 million people.
And similar figures. I work in the US, the UK, and Australia mainly as my kind of client base, but seeing that. So there's a demand, and I think this is why now is a really good time, if anyone's ever thought to set up a business. And actually, I haven't got the figures, but I know, I think it was from July to December last year, the UK saw the biggest number of small business startups, limited companies registered. So I think we're seeing a lot of breakaways. I know people I've worked with, they've been, the CTO of, big organizations, they've broken away, they've set up a small consultancy, they've been marketing director of big organizations. So, there's some smart movers and shakers here that are going, actually, we can kind of capitalize on this demand, set up as a, consultant, as a freelancer, as a contractor, set up a small business, set up a kind of collaborative or collective. So, another 2 people that I'm working with at the moment over in Amsterdam, actually, kind of saw, instead of, just being a contractor, because there's kind of, there is a bit of limitation within that contractor. It's a really good place to start, but you're still kind of owned, you're still given that hourly rate. Actually, if we build this collective, we become an agency to deliver the services. Okay. So I think, for people looking to really kind of capitalize on this demand, it's about going, okay, what's the service or the skill, or as I like to call it, what are your superpowers that you can package up as a deliverable service. Sometimes, and actually 3 of the people that I've worked with very recently have delivered it back to the organization that they left for less time and more money. And so then they realize, so you were like undervaluing me. But then you've got, these big organizations, these kind of salary banding and salary caps. You come out the organization, they know you're really good, they need you. You're pitching it back as, here, I'm a consultancy, this is my fees, and they're paying it.
This is in fact a step that 2 or 3 of my friends have been doing over the past 24 months. They've had good client relationships. They've had contracts that it was possible to leave the company. And they basically use their superpowers, as you call it, to sell them back to similar or even the same, if it's possible with the contracts they had, clients. And I mean, it's perfectly fine, right? They have more freedom. Usually they earn more money if you do skip a few people up the food chain. And it's a smart move because you do a similar job if you do like your job, or if you want to continue in that job. I think this is one of the first steps that people can experiment around with to gain a little bit more freedom, right?
Yeah. And, when I work through kind of the Get Out Game Plan program with people, I'm not, and I really want to say this, because I'm not pitching that you're going to have a 6-figure business in 90 days. There's too many people out there, bro marketing tactics, that this is what you can do. So it's actually, and a lot of these people, they have mortgages, they maybe have children, that you can't just leave your corporate job and cut off that salary supply. So it is about, how can you kind of create that safety net to move towards this? So actually finding those maybe 3 days a week contract that is your safety net to then build some clients for 2 days a week. And then, you move from that 3 days a week contract, or it's a 2-day a week, or you bring someone in to help delivery, because then you bring in more business. So it's really about kind of working out the best business kind of, model that you want to move towards, and how to make that happen. Not, okay, this program, this, that I've bought on, or this coach says I can do it in 60 or 90 days. I think there's, you're much better if you really want to do this. It's around that kind of really planning it and looking at the opportunities. So, one of the clients, and I said, well, go and pitch it to them. Go and pitch back to your business that you want to leave, but you want to consult for them 3 days a week.
What happened?
She got the 3-day week consulting gig.
And what is she doing? I mean, you don't have to go into all the details, but what is she doing with the other 2 days? Is she setting up a different business? Is she following?
Yeah, so it's similar. But she's really kind of gone, this is where I want my niche to be. Because often our roles in corporate organizations, they're quite broad, and we might be doing, 50, 60, 70% of stuff we can do, but it's not really what we want to do. It's not where we want to kind of grow. And so it's about, it's that clarity piece where it's actually, they're my superpowers, and that's what I want to do more of. And this is who I want to do it with. And, then kind of mapping, we do big exercise where we map the market, which again, it's not about leaving without knowing who's out there, who could your client base be, having a target list of potential organizations or people that you want to work with, having a client attraction strategy in place. So, from that clarity piece, it's then, okay, how do I make this happen? And I do a lot of work around building a powerful personal brand to shine online, to actually bring the clients to you. Because again, some of these people, step out and think posting on Instagram is going to bring in, and there's a number of courses that I see daily about how to do TikTok, Reels, Facebook posts, which irk me a little bit, because if you were going to pitch your services as a copywriter, a designer, a coach, a business strategist, would you go into a client's office and do a dance? So why go and do a dance on Instagram Reels? And so, there's then that kind of work really building, when I was in the corporate world, I was in business development. I was in recruitment, so I dealt a lot with careers, but ultimately recruitment's got a massive sales component. I grew 2 recruitment businesses from the ground up. I had to find clients to work with. So I use my, corporate business development strategies back into this work I do from a coaching perspective, which I love, and I've used it on my to set up my own business.
So I hear that step 1 is really this clarity, and I would call it a little bit self-awareness, so that you understand where do you want to be and how do you want to get there. But this is really internal. It's your values, it's your vision, it's your strength. And then in a second step, you basically screen the market and what's there, and you try to map, okay, where is my strength going to fit into the market? What are the companies? What are the business models that I could see? What happens next once you have done this internal analysis and the external analysis?
So it kind of comes together. You then, it's about, okay, this is my service offering. These are my ideal clients. It's then a marketing piece. Mm-hmm. You've uncovered your features and your benefits. You've got your, your target market that you want to attract. So then it's going out to market. And we do kind of look at how does Instagram and Facebook feed into it, but a platform that, is massively underutilized and, still people aren't using it to the maximum benefit is LinkedIn. So we then work on building a powerful personal brand. I have done, and it's kind of taking my work from the recruitment industry of using LinkedIn from a recruitment perspective to find talent and clients. And, the old school CVs of how you pitch yourself. It's then actually writing your pitch. It's getting your value proposition across in your LinkedIn profile. We've moved from, a world that was, we have B2B, B2C and this kind of thing. We're now human to human. And particularly when we're looking at, if you're wanting to attract contracts, speaking gigs, paid lecture gigs, whatever it is, it's about who you are as a person. So it's really looking at, okay, how do we build a know, like, and trust factor from the get-go with your audience? LinkedIn is like walking into the world's biggest networking event. But you get to do it from the beauty of your home, sat in your, flip-flops, pajamas, whatever you want. But it's then, okay, if someone lands on my profile, that what they see is really as if they were walking up to you in a networking event and you were shaking their hand. And how do you approach people? How do you add value to actually then, it's not just relying on putting a post on LinkedIn or connecting with someone on LinkedIn, it's actually getting them onto your database. So building an email list of potential clients and then actually servicing them a little bit with your knowledge, so that they know, like, and trust you even more, and you're adding value to their business. And then if they really need that paid service, you're top of their mind. It's no different to what I did in sales.
No, absolutely. Why do you think then that LinkedIn is kind of undervalued, or at least that not sufficient people use the full potential of LinkedIn?
Because I think, when it started, it was kind of seen as just a job search platform. But even when I was, before kind of really moving into these people leaving the corporate world and setting up the business, when I was working a lot with kind of job seekers, they were still relying on a CV as their main tool to go to market. And LinkedIn has developed massively, the behind the scenes search functionality. It's a search engine. So whenever I'm ever looking for somebody to help me in my business, I go to LinkedIn. You can search on LinkedIn much better. You can put in the skills that you need. You can see their experience. You can see that much better. You can't search on Instagram or TikTok, and you can't get their background information. So LinkedIn is like your kind of, your CV or your resume, your bio on steroids. And I just think people don't, I've got a list of, at the moment, probably 500 coaches, consultants, freelancers, contractors that I've found on LinkedIn haven't got a completed profile.
Yeah, and that would be interesting to understand how many profiles on LinkedIn looking good or are up to a good quality standard. And I hear it's not so many, yeah?
No, it's not so many, because, there's a lot of focus on it, kind of Instagram or Instagram now is, kind of the booming one. You've got Clubhouse, which I don't know how far that's kind of come. That was another one, so. And I think as a solo kind of business owner, how do you manage all these platforms and try and do the work? But actually, really, if you're looking to set up on your own, even as a freelancer, coach, consultant, small business, more service-based business than kind of product-based business, but you can be a product-based business. I think a missing piece for a lot of people is this: what is going to be my business development, client attraction strategy? Where's the business going to come from? And I know from talking to so many people, and I have a Facebook group, the Freedom Seekers Society, where there's a lot of people that are, looking at how they transition. This is the piece that stops people taking that leap.
Because there is uncertainty and there is a risk. Even if you have a good strategy on how to create business after N months, which you, by the way, should not fully rely on, but you should make sure that you can also survive a little longer in case that business is not kicking in. But anyways, I think this is what people are being scared of, right? So they do not know, how do I attract people and how do I sell my superpower? At least they don't have the certainty. And I think this is one thing that many people, at least coming from the corporate world, coming from what you said, there's prestigious investment banking companies, management consultants, being marketeers, whatsoever, they have a certainty. They know what's coming in. And this is, I believe, one of the major factors that's holding people back from making this decision towards a more happy life, if you want to say, potentially happy life.
And now, and I haven't got the figures for this, but there is a number of platforms, as well as kind of excuse me, LinkedIn, that are to find remote talent, and particularly they're more so at that kind of senior level. But actually, you've got platforms like Upwork, Freelancer, .com, I think it is. There's lots of platforms. So it's actually, and I'm a planner, or if I'm doing something, and it's not just knee-jerk reactions. So it is actually, okay, let me find my superpowers. Where can I place these? What are the platforms I need to be on? Who do I need to be connecting with now? What's the brand I need to be building? Who needs to know me? So I have a saying, it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you and what they know you for.
And that makes good sense. Yeah.
So before you look to leave the corporate world and set up on, your own, and actually before, even if you're not looking to leave the corporate world, you're looking for a different, avenue in the corporate world, it's get known by the right people for the right reasons. And when you do that, opportunities come to you. So one of my other programs is called Step Up, Stand Out and Shine, because when you shine online, you're attracting people to you. So you're attracting the opportunities. And so then if people want you, you say, yes, I can come and do that, but I only want it 3 days a week. And they want you because you've shown them your superpowers. So there will be, with some organizations, there's that ability, okay, 3 days a week. So it's really, you know, that's why this clarity piece is so important. And it's one step that it isn't the easiest step. So everyone wants to skip it.
No, absolutely. And I mean, it can be also fairly painful, right? Because you have to accept, or it might be that you have to accept that the past N months or even years have not been bringing you forward to the direction that you actually picture your vision in. So I think it can be painful. And this is why quite a few people are avoiding it and sticking to the jobs that they have. I have a question though. So if we say, okay, leaving a corporate job, the normal 9 to 5, I would say this is all valid, but especially if I talk to people from I want to call it old world, being management consultants, being investment bankers, and I don't want to brag about any hours, but some of the people work very long hours. What kind of suggestions would you give people that have really one of those, I don't know, 80, 90 plus hours working weeks? How can they gain more clarity, and what can also those people do, or what can each and everybody do to prepare such a career step?
So what I did, so I was working in recruitment, and it definitely wasn't 9 to 5. And there was, you know, weekend work. I had to put some boundaries in place, and, you know, I kind of started a lot of the planning and preparation at the weekends. I then was fortunate enough, and I know this isn't possible for anyone, but I'd done 10 years with this business. So I had a 3-month sabbatical. So I took the 3-month sabbatical to, and I was in Australia at the time. I went to Italy because the business I wanted to set up at the time was like this laptop lifestyle. This is like, gosh, 7 years ago. So it was kind of a bit of a new thing then, not so much now. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to take this sabbatical and go. And I'd done pre the sabbatical a bit of, you know, this brand building work. I'd managed to secure some guest lecture spots, conference speaking, things around careers, picked up a couple of clients. So I thought, okay, I go to Italy for 3 months and just really see, can I ramp this up? Can I make it possible? And can I get some clients, and can it work, me being in Italy and working with people all over the world, which I did. During that point in time, I managed to connect with more people, get some blog articles published on different blogs, which then started seeing more clients. So I started the snowball rolling before leaving. So I knew it was possible. There was still, look, and I'm, you know, hands up, there's been still a huge amount of trial and error since, you know, really cutting the corporate cord. There's been long hours, you know, to get it up and running. I've built an online course, which when I bought the program on how to develop an online course, it said I could have it up and running and selling and making lots of money in 90 days. It was probably more like 90 plus weeks of very long hours. So, you know, but the long hours were different because it was doing what I really wanted to do. I was doing it for me. I was doing it knowing it was building the future that I want. Not doing it with kind of just, you know, the Groundhog Day, the treadmill getting faster and faster. You know, there was a purpose. I was moving towards, I was doing it to move towards where I wanted to move towards. And, you know, I think also for me, when you really find those superpowers, that's something you can't turn off. It is you. It's something you do naturally. Yeah. So when I'm writing, you know, workbooks, blog articles, when I'm talking about careers, I can't stop doing that.
Because you love it and because it's your passion. That's wonderful. If I listen to that, what's the power or what's the importance of self-belief and self-assurance? When did you know that this is in fact what you want to do? And when did you know, or how did you know that this is your superpower and that you will not be able to stop writing those workbooks and blog articles?
Gosh, there was always, I kind of call it the itch. There was like this itch inside of me, this little voice when, and my life in Melbourne that I'd set up and kind of designed was amazing. I had my office in South Melbourne. If anyone knows it, near Albert Park Lake, where the Grand Prix is held. My gym was in Albert Park Lake. I lived just the other side of Albert Park Lake. Beautiful, you know, couldn't have asked for anything better. But I was doing this drive to work every day, thinking, is this it? Have I reached my full potential? And I knew that there was more inside of me. I wanted to make a bigger impact. I was helping people in their careers with recruitment, but not to the level I wanted. I knew I had all this knowledge and information. I knew from my own career journey, which was, you know, definitely not linear, and there was a lot of wrong moves, but it had taught me so much that I wanted to share and create an impact in the world. And I wasn't going to do it, you know, running a recruitment agency in Melbourne, however big the salary was. And so I didn't know, kind of, you know, until I actually moved into doing it and writing it, and how, you know, kind of inspired I get and energized I get by, you know, sharing all this knowledge. But there was a voice inside of me that said, hang on, this isn't your lot. You can't stop here. You've got to try it.
So to follow this calling and to trust your gut, your intuition, whatever you want to call it, and to maybe block out your mind that tells you, okay, you haven't done this before, you should at least go for different steps, right? So you can at least experiment and follow your instincts.
And I mean, I've always been a bit of a, well, let's give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? You know, I left London, decided to move back up to Manchester, where I'm originally from, kind of on a whim. What's the worst that can happen? London's not going anywhere. I can always go back to London and get another job. After a couple of years in Manchester, my sister and brother had been traveling in Australia. My sister lived in Sydney for a couple of years. She's like, oh, it's amazing. Okay, cool. What's the worst that can happen? I just can come back. And I think, you know, leaving the corporate world, I don't say do it on a whim in terms of, you know, what's the worst that can happen. Those corporate jobs are always going to be there. And I couldn't live a life not trying, not giving it a go. Another thing that I do, you know, myself, and I do with my clients is, and so when I was probably around 36, 37 when this, you know, itch was getting too big to not scratch. And I thought to myself, and I'd studied NLP, I was studying my coaching, and I thought to myself, I can't stand and look at myself in the mirror at 40 and still be doing this. And I certainly can't look at myself in the mirror at 45 and have not given it a try. I can look at myself and say, I gave it a go, it didn't work, but I gave it a red hot shot, but I can't. And so it's not about, I mean, often so many of us are seeking validation and happiness and things external to us. And it's how we feel about ourselves. And can we look at ourselves in the mirror and be happy with what we did?
And have we tried whatever opportunities were there? And I mean, if you do not feel this urge and if you do not feel this need to change something, then maybe do not change something.
It's not for everyone. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, I sometimes get really envious of people that at school knew what job they want to do, know where they're going, happy, you know, like the job. It's good some days, not so good other days, happy, you know, with how they are. I'm a searcher and an explorer and an adventurer. And so for me, I was just like, I can't, you know, I wasn't even 40. I was like doing this drive to work thinking, I'm going to be working till I'm 65. This is like another 27 years that I work for a company that tells me how many days holiday I get. I have to put in an application to take those days. You tell me how much I'm worth with my salary cap. I was like, this is madness. So if you know, people listening to this are going, oh no, that's not for me. It's not for everyone. because we're not all the same. And happiness, success, fulfillment, satisfaction, it's different for all of us. There's not one right way. There's just our own way.
No, absolutely. It's a super individual endeavor, and people have to and should figure out which is theirs. Without talking figures or without talking numbers, how does a normal day look for you? Do you work for yourself 9 to 5? Do you work 1 month super heavy and then 1 month not at all? Or what is this working life that you created for yourself that you are happy about, hopefully, at the moment?
Look, I love what I do, so I work a lot.
Love that.
And so it varies, because I can have kind of a lot of clients in one go, and they go through, normally kind of I'm working with them 12 weeks really intensely. And then it kind of, they filter off, and it's more kind of, just once a month check-ins and things. I have picked up, and I work on a couple of contracts now, because I decided probably around this time last year, actually, that, my big thing is I want to create a big impact in the world and really help people, because my happiness comes from actually seeing other people find their happiness. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I thought I've got all this knowledge and skills, and I want to use it further. One of my big things was actually around changing the education system, because and particularly the higher education, but also I'd spoken to a couple of people that had spent a huge amount of money on doing MBAs and various other big courses after having alongside a career, but they still hadn't got career clarity, and they still didn't know how to go and attract the job that they wanted. They just had an MBA. And various business schools, I looked into various business schools, the kind of career coaching model, so and so. I was like, this is madness. Like, this needs to change. So I then was working on a contract with an organization that run additional training courses, a lot around data analytics, which is is a big market at the moment. And they really want to support their students to not just have the hard skills, but have the soft skills, have a career development plan, and have the direction. And it was like I had this idea of how it could be great if an organization did this. Suddenly an organization appears saying, this is what we're doing, we're looking to work with a career coach on developing this program. So that's been that's been really good, because I get to coach, but I also get to kind of design and develop a career coaching program that sits alongside a training course, which I hope we see more of. So and there's that variety. I kind of needed the variety. And then doing things like, the Facebook group I've had now since the beginning of COVID. It was initially the Career Breakthrough Club, trying to really help, trying to really help people through COVID that were being made redundant. But that's now moved to the Freedom Seekers Society to help people. And then I do workshops and training for corporate organizations. So there's a whole mix that I didn't know was possible when I stepped out. But it's like you open this door, and then you open another door, and then suddenly there's all these opportunities. So I work, I do work pretty hard because I love it. Sometimes I wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I've just got this idea, and I've got like a blog post, but that's just how my mind works. Other people that I know that have set up on their own. One of the people that broke away, she's 4 days a week. That's it, 9 to 5, because that's what they want. So you get to design it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I mean, you answered it yourself, but it would be very interesting how many. I mean, you described a lot of wonderful and exciting tasks. I think we're very alike there. But how many of those opportunities did you actually see when you were making this move to open this very first door, I believe, and that's an assumption, that you did not see all of those different tasks and all those exciting projects that you can work on, right? So it's sometimes also really about this first step, this first door to open, and then to have the self-belief, to have this assurance that it will take you down the path that's meant for you.
Yeah, there's you have to work the trust muscle, that's for sure. I knew that I knew the impact I wanted to have. I knew what I was really good at. I knew what kind of lights me up, and it's helping people find this clarity in this direction. And so I had to walk my own talk and go, that's my superpowers. I'm packaging it up. I've got a client attraction business development strategy. I'm going to go out there, and it's like we're on a journey, aren't we, we've gone from the corporate path, which we can see because a lot of people have trod that path before, but we're going to go off road a bit, and we're treading a path that not many people have trod. But we can't, when we're ever on a journey, we don't know what we're going to stumble across along the way. So we're picking a different road. But this is why, I do say to people, if you're going to do it, talk to people that have done something similar, if not the same, because you don't have to go, ask someone, hang on, you've been on that journey. I hear you off-roaded down, back of beyond. Where's the first shop? Where can I get petrol for my car? Go and find out bits of information. I probably did it initially too much on my own before I actually joined communities, societies, worked with a coach to help me, because there was times where I'm in the middle of nowhere going, okay, I'm lost. I haven't got a map. I don't know what direction to go in. I'm running out of food and water. Get the help. But we can't, we can see probably that corporate path a lot clearer because that's what's been there for so long. And this is kind of new.
No, absolutely. And I mean, for myself, again, I can only talk for myself, but if I would have stayed in my old job, I want to say, I would have known, okay, next January, you get a pay raise of da-da-da-da-da. Next July, you get the promotion of da-da-da-da-da. And you have all that clearly mapped out.
And I've got 20 days holiday. Where should I go on those 20 days?
Exactly, which I'm not going to be able to use full off. So I have 10 days of holiday, and the other 10, whatever happens to them, happens to them.
They get carried over and I can't use them the next year
exactly.
either.
exactly. No? And I think now being off-road and not knowing exactly what is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. There's moments that are scary as hell, like, let's be honest, but you're in control.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think in the corporate world, and I kind of reached, a bit of the ceiling in the business and was asking for other things. I wasn't in control of my destiny. And, I didn't feel empowered to create the life I wanted to create because someone else was going to tell me what I have to do, how much I can earn. I think it is, this is why I call the Facebook group the Freedom Seeker Society, because it is for people that are, seeking that freedom, that flexibility to be their own boss, to actually live on their own terms. So when you're working for a corporate company, you're not actually living on your own terms.
No, absolutely.
They own you.
Absolutely, they do.
You're a slave to the salary.
Yeah, I mean, you give your most valuable resource being time, and you get a certain payslip for it. And I think this is how it works, and this is not really the liberty that at least some of us would like to have. So the freedom seekers. Talking about groups and communities and helping hands, could you talk a little bit, because you said that you probably started using that too late for yourself, but could you talk a little bit to the power of having a mentor, having people in your environment that are on a similar journey?
Oh, it's so powerful because, and like I said, I didn't do it early enough. I made a lot of mistakes. I mean, I didn't technology wise, I'm terrible. I never even update my phone because I'm too scared to do it. So, I knew I needed to seek help with getting a website built. I kind of had been, doing some study and following some other entrepreneurs and people that had, set up their own business, understood I needed an email marketing list. And I knew from my own business, I didn't know how to set it up. So there was kind of things I knew I needed help with, but there was stuff around probably mindset. And I'm a coach, a qualified coach, and NLP master practitioner, but we can do this stuff on other people. Sometimes it takes someone else to help us look in on ourselves. So I was getting, sometimes in a bit of a pickle, in a negative cycle about things, and really trying to break that. But ultimately, if you work with somebody that is 2 years probably above where you want to be, they've made the mistakes and they'll tell you so you don't have to make them. And to step out, I was kind of foolish, arrogant, overly confident, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I've got this down pat. I've set up 2 businesses. Prior to that, I actually worked as a business advisor for small to medium enterprises. But boy, it's different when it's your own thing, because you're in it, you haven't got that kind of helicopter view where you can see it. You're juggling all the balls. So I realized, I'm selling coaching. I need a coach to help me. And I had, and not at the moment, but when I was in Melbourne, I had a personal trainer, because if I wanted to get fitter, there's only so much I know. There's only so much I know I don't know, but there's a whole world that I don't know that I don't know. A personal trainer is qualified. I did the Noosa triathlon, never done a triathlon before. Yes, I could Google some stuff, but actually, if I want to do this, maybe I'll go and talk to someone who's done a triathlon before. That would be the smart thing to do. So it's just the same, but for some reason, with our careers, with our life, with our relationships, and with our businesses, a lot of people don't see it as failure to go and have to ask for help, rather than actually seeing it as being really smart. But these people have got personal trainers, or but don't see it as the same thing.
Which is interesting for me, and I don't really understand, because if you spend, let's say, only 8 hours a day in your job and in your career, how many hours a week do you spend in the gym, right? So if you say, okay, let's spend 5 hours a week in the gym, and you get a personal trainer, but for your 40 hours per week, you don't get any professional coaching, or at least a peer that's going through something very similar, right? So I think it's perfectly fine to talk to someone, or to even a group of people that's going through something. And I think that's absolutely needed.
And so, that having kind of coaches, mentors, there's group coaching programs are great, because you're working probably with someone who's heading up the group coaching program that's 2 steps, 2 years ahead, 3 years, 5 years, but you're also then working with a small group of people that are at a similar stage than you, and they'll all have different skills and knowledge. They will have tried different things, different systems, so actually surrounding yourself with people that are on a similar journey is so powerful. And it can be a really, really lonely place if you're on your own. So yeah, I think it's just having those people. And I've met so many amazing people from these group coaching programs, and have contacts now all over the world, that if suddenly I want to do something, or need some knowledge, information, and we're sharing our skill base. So it's it's beautiful, really.
Yeah, I would say usually it's much faster, and it's a lot more fun if you connect with other people on this journey and don't take this bumpy road by yourself.
Yeah. And you know what, sometimes, well, you need someone to share your wins with.
Absolutely.
I'm currently in this crazy little tiny Italian village at the bottom of a mountain, with my daughter, and she's 4. She doesn't want to hear what mummy's done today. So it's really good to be able to share your wins. But also when you have one of those bad days, to have someone that you can phone up and kind of gets it, can talk you through it, be like, oh yeah, God, I had a month like that, kind of just, have that support network for sure.
Wonderful. I love it. So much wisdom, Adele. I have a few questions that I ask each and everybody of my podcast guests. But before we go there, is there something that we did not touch today that you would like to talk about, that you would like to now open another door for?
Probably, because as you can see, I kind of like talking about all this. But no, I think, I just hope that's given people enough value. I hope, really for anyone that's got that itch, that little voice in their head saying, is there something more? I want to say, yes, there is. And so explore it, because if you leave it too long, you're going to regret it. So explore it. You don't have to, and I do not advocate knee-jerk reactions, jumping ship too quickly with no safety net. The first thing is explore it and see how it fits.
Wonderful. I love it. And I really appreciate you for what you do and being the helping hand for so many people. So before we go for those 3 questions, Adele, I'm sure that people want to find out more about you. Where can they do so?
So they can go to my website, adeleleah.com, or join the Facebook group, the Freedom Seekers Society. In there, I've actually we've just put a new kind of workbook together, which is the Build Your Business Blueprint. It's quite a hefty workbook because it's got a lot of the steps to take and to start thinking, questions to ask, how to build your personal brand, how to look at, your client attraction funnel. So the Freedom Seekers Society on Facebook or adeleleah.com. They can drop me an email from there.
Wonderful. And obviously we will link all that for the speaker notes, and I'm happy to connect you. And I'm very certain that you have one new Facebook group member already about to sign up. That was really wonderful. And it sounds super interesting. So I guess I see you on the other side. And with that, Adele, my first question would be, who influenced and what motivated you in the last week?
Oh, okay. So I love to listen to podcasts. So influencing me at the moment is a guy called Stephen Bartlett. His podcast is The Diary of a CEO. I actually got to go back to the UK the other weekend and watch his kind of live show, The Diary of a CEO live. Massively inspirational guy himself, but on his podcast, so many amazing inspirational guests. Mo Gaudat is up there as on the top spot, along with Matthew Saeed, I think he's called. Phenomenal, really interesting guy. The list goes on. I aim to get inspired on a daily basis by somebody or something and learn something new. I try to head out with a mindset of curiosity.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love it. And I'm also going to make sure to link those episodes to the speaker notes. And yeah, I'm also a big fan of podcasts, obviously. The second question would be, Adele, who are your mentors or whom do you look up to?
Oh, gosh. So, I guess, say somebody like, Stephen Bartlett, I look up to. Mel Robbins, another really interesting one. She was actually interviewed on Stephen Bartlett's podcast. There's somebody I follow called Amy Porterfield. So she's somebody who's probably 10 years ahead of me in the, this kind of online business world. So I listen to a lot of her podcasts. There's a guy, David Siteman Garland. So I kind of dip in and out of their courses, their membership groups, their podcasts, to gain the knowledge I need to grow my business.
Wonderful. I love it. Perfect. The third question, Adele, I have is I call it the alien scenario or the three truths. So picture that you are traveling in space for quite some time, for months or even years. And after a long, long journey, you encounter a human-like species, and they can only process three facts or three things about humanity before they figure out, do they want to get to know humanity or not? What are those three things you tell them?
Oh my goodness. The three things I tell them about humanity is every single person is a unique being.
Love it.
So yeah, every single person is a unique being. Every single person is on the planet with a passion and purpose, but not many of them stop to uncover it.
Okay.
And that for every single person, happiness is inside of them.
Wonderful. I really like that. It's very unique, very personal.
I don't know if I answered that right, but that's what came to mind.
And that's what comes to mind is certainly the right answer. So thank you so much, Adele, for this wonderful conversation.
I've talked too much, I'm sure.
Absolutely not. I think you've just talked enough, and I'm more than happy to welcome you to a round two at some point of the Just Another Mindset podcast. So it was really, really nice. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
If you enjoy this podcast and learn from it, please feel free to share this episode with a friend or two, and make sure to subscribe to the Just Another Mindset podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please use the next 10 seconds to give the Just Another Mindset podcast a rating, and know that you will help me to create more meaningful content like this, and also that it will help other people to find this content and get inspired as well. If there is any future topic or guest that you would like to hear more about on the Just Another Mindset podcast, please let me know by leaving a comment on YouTube or sending a mail directly to contact@ismaelwondergarten.com. And if nobody told you lately, be reminded that you are worthy, you matter, and you can achieve anything.
Be yourself positive. Just another mindset.